So I have a synthesizer sound design challenge for you that I call the one note challenge. It's about designing one note using contour and intention. And the idea is that if you can complete this challenge, you have really mastered your synthesizers and synthesis in general. If you just want to do the challenge, jump to this timestamp. But first, I would like to introduce you to a concept called delta sounds. There's a music teacher in Belgium called Annette van de Gjorne, and she teaches something called Acousmatic music. What that is too complicated to get into right now, but it's a style of electronic music that's very heavy on the sound design, a lot of attention to sound sculpting and sound shaping. I've personally never had the privilege of studying with Annette, but my understanding is that a delta sound is a sound that eventually ends up with the shape of a triangle. So most sounds, they have a kind of a peak, an attack, and then they kind of fade down to zero, right? So the idea of a delta sound is a sound that ends up having this shape. One part of it is a percussive contour, where a sound starts loud and just tails out. And then there's some other sound that precedes it, maybe reversed into it, that sort of justifies the existence of that percussion. And you perceive it as if one thing caused the other. Here's an example of a sound that I made a few weeks ago. And there's a couple of variations of it. And so the idea is that we're going to combine this sound in a delta sound configuration with a different sound. And the other sound that I'm going to combine it with is just a voice notes that I recorded of me playing an acoustic piano. Got 3 chords like that. So what you can do is create a delta sound. Here, one fades into the other and transitions into it as if they are somehow related. Isn't that beautiful? Like they're connected somehow. That's a delta sound. A sound that has a different character as it's coming, and then when it goes, it has a different character again. I think that particular combination would be lovely to hear someone recite poetry over or something. If anyone has any lovely spoken word stuff to put over that, I would be open to explore that. And so that puts us in the right mindset for the one note challenge. And so the one note challenge is a challenge where you take a synthesizer and you play a single note. And then you're going to create a contour of that sound using envelopes. So what does that mean? It means that the sound has to have a beginning, a climax, and an ending of some sort. And you sculpt the sound using several envelopes so that maybe the beginning has a different character than the end. For example, here's one that I made in Ableton Live. And so as you can see, it's got 5 seconds of attack and about 8 seconds of decay. So it really feels like something that's passing you by. And then the LFO that affects some parts of the timbre, it speeds up and slows down also over the course of that time. In the matrix, you can see how that single envelope is affecting a whole bunch of parameters, first of all. So the sound changes as the envelope completes its loop. But then also, for example, the LFO rate speeds up and slows down. Let's listen to it again, so you can look a bit at the mod matrix. So it's an LFO that starts slow. Whoa, 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 whoa. Do you see how this relates to the delta sounds in some ways? The idea is that it has a different character as it's coming or as it's going. So use envelopes to change the sound over time and use LFOs. And things speeding up, slowing down is a great way to have something that's very expressive. Like these kind of sounds are great if you're trying to make effects and things like that for a song. Let's have a listen to another example that I made. So this uses envelopes that are looped. Envelope 1 and envelope 2 are both looped. So that means it kind of expresses itself as if there's a big LFO on everything. And there's a 4-man wavetable being used. Here's another example using 2 LFOs extensively and all 3 of the envelopes. Oh, nice. Wavetable synths are especially good at this because if you move the position of the wavetable, the harmonics within the sound shift quite a bit, and it's very satisfying. It doesn't have to always have a really long attack as if it's like this Doppler effect thing passing by. Sometimes it can just be a swell like this with a very intentional, it's just a half a second attack. But you can hear the LFOs speeding up, slowing down. And the LFO is also changing the pitch. So often, I guess in synthesis, one thing you might not really touch that much is LFOs going to pitch, because it often leads to like woo, woo kind of sounds. But when you're creating like these abstract effecty kind of sounds like this, you can make really interesting unpitched sound effects like that. Let's do another one. That one's kind of gnarly. And then on this last one, I wanted to make something that was very much like those delta sounds, where the sound before a certain moment has a certain character, and then after a certain moment has a totally different character. And so I've combined envelope 2 and envelope 3. Envelope 1 just stays loud. Envelope 2 and envelope 3, they control the two different oscillators. And so when you listen to it, hopefully after about 3 seconds, you're going to hear the difference. So yes, you can really have something that has a certain character at the start and then a totally different character afterwards. And that's the one note challenge. Feel free to consider the one note challenge as part of January. If any of you are doing January, feel free to do one of those and consider that your contribution for the day. I apologize for the crazy room reverb in here. The acoustic panels are only coming in this weekend. If you like the way I teach, maybe go follow one of my courses. Leave a comment to let me know what you think of this exercise. Say something nice to me otherwise. Like the video, subscribe. And until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye.